Hey everyone, this is Paige from Casper Creative. Today's DIY video is brought to you by, well, you, the viewers. About a week ago, I posted asking what you guys wanted me to make for my next DIY, and this farmhouse mirror is what won. So let's get started. You will need a pack of these giant craft sticks from Walmart, a pack of these smaller craft sticks that can be found at Walmart or the Dollar Tree, an 8x10 mirror, and this 11x14 picture frame, both from the Dollar Tree. You will also need some apple barrel paint in pewter gray and snow white from Walmart. To mimic the look of shiplap, I found this construction paper at Hobby Lobby. This is completely optional. You could always just draw lines on a white piece of paper and you get a pretty similar look. You'll want to grab some adhesive, either some E6000 or maybe even gel super glue. The first thing you're going to do is remove the backing from the mirror. The only part of this that you actually need is the mirror part itself. Next, you will disassemble the picture frame. This time, the only part you will be using is the actual backing itself. I'm going to have my mirror displayed horizontally, but if you prefer to have yours vertically, you can do that as well. Right now, I'm measuring a 1/2 inch from the edge of the backing. The reason why I'm doing this is because the frame that I will be creating using the craft sticks is going to sit along that 1/2 inch mark. Next, I lay 2 scrap pieces of craft stick along those 1/2 inch marks. This helps to mimic what the actual height of the mirror will be once we're all finished. That way I know exactly how long each side needs to be. I draw a line that will serve as a guideline for when I'm cutting the craft sticks apart later. I trace the top of the backing because the top row and the bottom row will just be the length of the cardboard backing itself. And now it's time to start cutting down the larger craft sticks. Of course, you want to remove the rounded portion on both ends of the craft stick before you move on to the next part. Once you have your first craft stick cut down, put it next to that guideline that you created. More than likely, there's going to be some extra space where you will need to cut down another craft stick. Cut down the second craft stick so that when the 2 craft sticks are combined, it equals the length of your guideline. Now that you have the craft sticks cut down for one side of your mirror, you can just use those pieces as a guideline for cutting down the craft sticks for the opposite side of the mirror, since obviously they're going to be the same length. And now that we have the pieces measured for the left and the right side of the mirror, we can work on the top and the bottom. I am marking a 1/2 inch from the edge on the remaining 2 sides because again, the sticks are going to sit at that 1/2 inch mark and I wanted to make sure that I am being as accurate as possible. Now that we have all the border pieces cut out, let's line them up with the backing to make sure everything fits the way it's supposed to. Since the pieces were cut down the way we wanted them to be, now all we need to do is glue them together. Once all of the pieces are glued together, I like to smear the glue around a little bit with my finger. I feel like it just fills in the cracks a little bit better and then you don't have a bump on the top of your sticks. And now it's time to move on to cutting the smaller of the craft sticks. It's literally the exact same cutting process as the larger ones, so I won't spend too much time showing you how I did it. Although something that is different about the smaller craft sticks is that I cut them down so that they would sit completely on the mirror itself without any overhang. Remember with the larger craft sticks, I had marked the 1/2 inch point on the cardboard backing so that the larger craft sticks would hang over the edge a little bit. I just didn't want to try that with the smaller craft sticks because since they are so much smaller, I just felt like they would be really flimsy and they wouldn't sit very well along the edge of the mirror. I would also like to mention that I am lining up these smaller craft sticks along the edge of the mirror. It's just flipped over so that the reflective side is facing down because I thought it'd be super annoying having to stare into the reflection of my camera the whole time. And just for fun, I thought I'd show you what happened when I tried to utilize super glue to fill in the cracks of the larger craft sticks. Here we go. That's right, I did get super glue stuck to my finger. Next, I'll show you how I got out of this mess. Using a Q-tip and some nail polish remover, work at the area where your skin is stuck to the container. You eventually might just take the nail polish remover and pour it directly onto the affected area. Very gently pull, and with luck, you eventually should become unstuck. And now that that's over, we can move on to gluing together the smaller of the craft sticks. And I might add that I will use E6000 because I learned the hard way that super glue does not like me. Once I have all of the pieces glued together, I like to take a small paintbrush or a small makeup brush and just very gently rub over the part where the two pieces come together. This is a lot more delicate than using your fingers, but it still does the same effect of smoothing out the glue, so that way you don't have bumps when it's dry. Now it's time to create the foundation for your mirror. You might need to rearrange the craft paper several times until you figure out how to make it lie without there being any gaps. Once I had both my sheets lined up, I flipped them over and then put two small pieces of tape along the back so it wouldn't fall apart when I flipped it back over. And mine wasn't perfectly lined up, so I just flipped it back over and very gently removed the tape from one of the pieces of paper. That made it super easy to flip it back over because the tape was still attached to one piece, and then I could just really carefully line it up and then press it down so that way it was perfectly aligned. I then flipped it back over and traced around the outside of the cardboard backing. That way I knew exactly where I needed to cut. As you can see, it fits perfectly on the cardboard backing, so now we can move on to gluing it. I just used a basic glue stick, but you can use whatever you want. To keep the edges from curling up, I lined the outer edge of the cardboard backing with E6000. Once I had that finished, I very carefully laid the paper down on the backing and smoothed it out to make sure that there were no bumps or creases. Next, I placed the mirror directly in the center, again with the reflective side facing down so that way you don't have to stare in the reflection. I traced around the outer edge so I knew exactly where I would be gluing. Using a box cutter, I decided to remove some of the paper along the inside portion of that rectangle. I just thought that the mirror would stick much better if it was glued directly to the cardboard backing rather than gluing it to the paper that was glued to the backing. Once I had removed that paper, I started adding E6000 to the cardboard backing. I used a generous amount because I really wanted to make sure the mirror didn't fall off. And then I just carefully glued the mirror in place. And no matter how careful you are going to end up with some dried glue along the edges of the craft sticks. So I took some sandpaper and just carefully went over those parts where there was glue built up. And now on to assembling the larger craft sticks. So the slightly larger ones will go along the sides and the smaller ones will be the top and the bottom. And now on to the smaller craft sticks as well. Glue each frame together and then you can come back and sand them down once they're completely dry. And once they're dry and have been sanded, we can move on to painting. Now remember, we're using the Snow White by Apple Barrel. I end up doing 2 coats because I really wanted to try to fill in some of those cracks. They're not super obvious, but you still can kind of see them. And now we will paint the frame of our mirror using the Pewter Gray by Apple Barrel. I added a little bit of white paint to blend into the gray just because I wanted to give it a little bit more of a distressed look, and this also gave it a little bit more depth and character. And now it's time to assemble. I used E6000 around the edges of the mirror before laying down the inner frame. And then I did the exact same thing around the outer edges. And that's it, we are finished. We now have this beautiful farmhouse mirror made using products from Walmart, the Dollar Tree, and Hobby Lobby. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. Make sure you also press the notification bell next to the subscribe button so you'll be notified anytime I post something new. Thanks for watching!